All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for being here. My name is Andy Frank. I work with Montgomery Parks in our Park Development Division, and I'm an engineer, but I sort of oversee the division, and that division has many different aspects, but one of the biggest and most important is our Water Resources Program. So with me today is Ian Rodway. He's an engineer and a project manager with us, and we're here to talk about this great project that's behind us. If you are familiar with what this area was, it was pretty nasty 4 or 5 years ago. That's why it was identified as an area for potential restoration. And we're going to talk a little bit about where we are in the watershed, why we're doing what we do, and how we get this sort of thing accomplished, which is often because of your guys' commitment to the watershed and your connection with the decision makers, where obviously some of the biggest decision is what to fund and what not to fund. And so this is why this is very, very important that you guys are out here and working hard, but also enjoying the benefits of restoration work in Montgomery County and especially in Montgomery Park. So Ian Rodway is our project manager, and he's going to talk a little bit about the history of the site and where we are relative to what's upstream and what's downstream.
So yeah, sure. Thanks. Sorry I'm late, and thanks for all your hard work. I think, I visited the site 3 weeks ago, and it's definitely noticeable the amount of effort you guys are putting in. So we appreciate that off the bat. We think it's really helpful, and we just appreciate your support with all that. So yeah, like Andy was saying, we identified this channel completely covered in invasives at one point in time. There's some before pictures we have if you guys want to take a look at it. We are in the headwaters of Long Branch, right? So on the opposite side of us within the drainage area is the high school. The beltway is within it. So, it's a significant drainage area, and we found some old plans. The channel, it wasn't much of a channel when it was first, before the school was developed. And over time it's become larger and eroded a little bit.
And between us and the school is a little something we call the Beltway. And the Beltway was built in the 60s. And so what was this before the Beltway came out?
This was the golf course.
Yes, Indian Springs Country Club. And if anybody here are a member of the YMCA, you know that stone building you check in? What was that? That was the clubhouse for the clubhouse for the country club before the Beltway came in. I almost said Purple Line. And you guys know where they moved Indian Springs Country Club to? Where? Up Lay Hill Road. And what has happened to that since then? You know if it's still there? No. It's now a development called Poplar Run. And if you guys have a chance, I know Sligo, Northwest Branch, just remember you're all part of the Bay. So if you ever get a chance to go up there, I'd love to show you guys that. We worked real hard with the developer to restore a huge part of that golf course into native riparian wetlands as it was a long, long time ago. So this had a couple different stages. This development happened really close post-World War II. And this was just the golf course of the country club at that time. Kept growing after World War II. They said, boy, this place looks like it needs a beltway. They built the beltway, which they had to relocate. Then you had this open area. And as Ian was saying, at that point, even then the stream wasn't that eroded. It was about 18 inches deep. Now, when it was a golf course, it was probably 6 inches deep. And before that, it may have been 3 inches deep. And it may have been, like in Maryland, other braided streams. It may have been 5, 10, 15 different streams running all throughout this low area, depending on winters, storms, ice ages, all that sort of stuff that moves streams throughout the valley. Beltway comes, concentrates the flow, locks up some flow up there. That's why the wetlands is behind the Thunderbolts. Anybody a Thunderbolts fan? No? The Wooden Bat Baseball League. They play over there, and they have a wetland out beyond right field that's half plants, half baseballs. And then that's between the outfield fence and the sound wall for the Beltway. Then in 1994, as these plants are talking about, that's when the school system decided they need to put a high school there and relocate Blair High School from what's now Silver Spring Intermediate up to here. And they had to go through these studies, and that's why we have this mapping of what occurred during that time and how it looked during that time. So
it was all woods were most, wasn't it? I mean,
by the time the school was coming along, it was just about just about all woods.
Yeah, it wasn't.
people were living in the woods.
I don't know. I didn't.
Certainly the neighborhood story.
Yeah, the old
Yeah.
reports that it had
Okay.
become forested and
Yeah.
was unused.
Except by the people who
Except
made it.
for by the people
Right.
who otherwise
Yeah. But once the school idea came in, that's when they had to start studying. So that's some of the first mapping we have of the mid-90s conditions here, which were not as bad as they were in the mid-2010s when we kind of got it. And you want to talk a little bit about what they were looking to do before we started this project with that little road over there?
Expansion of the Beltway.
The expansion of the Beltway. Who voted for the expansion of the Beltway? No? All right. Well, that's good, because if they did expand the Beltway, this project would definitely not be here.
Oh, wow.
Yes, because they would have expanded it something like 100 feet from there into the wall, probably piped this whole thing. So let's talk a little bit about how we selected this as a project. What was it? How did we look at this area? What were the conditions when we saw it, and why did we think this was a good project?
Yeah, sure. So, like you were saying, it was over time the channel had eroded and become incised, so which means it kind of just cut down, disconnected from the floodplain. Everything that flowed through the channel went straight through the channel into the storm drain system. So we're up in the upper watershed of Long Branch. We go through our channel, which is daylighted, and then we enter the pipe system all the way down. It's significant. And you want to talk about that pipe system?
Well, I want to talk a little bit. Somebody asked a question. Well, why does it cut down? Why does the stream cut down? Bless you. And if anybody was here from the Fish Passage talk, why does the stream, once it gets a little bit deep, why does it keep going? Because of water power. So water power, the whole reason why we had all these mills here in Montgomery County, water power is very significant. And the reason water power is significant is it changes, the power increases exponentially by depth, okay? So it's not a linear connection, it's exponential. So the reason why it gets so deep is once you have a catalyst event, which likely was the building of the school from what we've seen from when we were all kids in the 90s, is because they built the school, they had concentrated flow, they did have stormwater management, that's a great thing, but then there's likely a fairly significant event that happened along the way, and it triggers a series of down cutting, okay? And so what it does is once it obtains any power, and power in this case comes from the end of the pipe, they concentrate the water to go under the beltway into a pipe, and then as soon as it has to leave, all that energy has to expand, and that expands left, right, up, but mostly down. And once it starts expanding down and applying that power there, that's where you get the cutting event. It keeps going down until it hits something hard, which is this storm drain. Now this storm drain, I think, is about 11 or 12 feet below the one up there. So what it does is the way streams work and the water powers work, it goes to at the downstream end, wherever you have a hold point, which is the culvert, it then begins to head cut. And that means it erodes towards its headwaters. So it's eroding upstream. So it starts to cut down until it almost has a straight line between that pipe and this pipe. And the issue is should this floodplain be a straight line? No. It should be mostly flat with different cascades at different points, right? So you have pooling and hydraulics either through riffles or cascades and that sort of thing. But what we had is a steepened channel, and that, when the water is down here on a dry day and the floodplain's up here, what happens up here to these wetlands?
Dries out.
They dry out. They can't connect. They don't get that. They get oxygen, which we all love, but wetland plants hate. And so this was extremely degraded, and that is a perfect environment for invasives to come in. right? So you have this negative downward spiral of poor water quality, poor hydraulics, and ripe for non-natives, because the natives are stressed, in this case, stressed by disconnection from their water source. All right, so if we could describe a little bit, and I think you have some pictures that show what it looked like when we found it, or not quite when we found it, but before we did the project.
Sure, I'll hand these out.
We're gonna get the
So you found this site, and it was downcut, it was full of invasives, and so what the heck could somebody do about that? How do you make that better?
So we worked with our park planning group to identify this area because of NNI as well as water quality, and decided that we thought we could slow down this water, give it time to infiltrate, get it through our park area, and provide a stable plan for so stable riffles and pools to get some of that water quality treatment. And then of course with a robust native planting, kind of return it back to a condition that would improve that kind of the water quality through here and minimize any chance of erosion in the future.
And our partners within Montgomery Parks that we work with, what kind of work do they do?
Yeah, so they're more natural resource scientists. They identify these areas. They really our support in locating these areas. They come out and they do a significant amount of outfall evaluations. So they evaluated this outfall. They look for any potential conflicts with utilities, any significant erosion, anything that may be damaged, an outfall, concrete outfall over time, and they fall in. And they really provide us with a lot of information to make that determination to go after
Do you remember about how many outfalls like this come onto parkland from other places?
No, you're testing me. I don't remember what the number. It's significant.
Do you think let me ask you this.
It's really high.
I'll ask everybody. Do you think that the number of outfalls like this coming onto Montgomery Parks, do you think it's 8, 80, 800, or 8,000? How many people say 8? How many people say 80? No. How many think I threw in 8,000 just for effect? About 800. About 800 like this, different sizes, different locations, but and yes, our park planning stewardship group is got an outfall identification program where they have a scoring system. They actually do go around every year to identify more of them, and we work both with DOT because they own many of them, sometimes SHA, and then this project is one that we own, so that we took the lead on. So, okay, do you want to talk, you mentioned before, what does this go into? So, you see this behind us, and then we get into a pipe, and then do we know what's down here? Long Branch, but how is Long Branch in here? Do you see it? Yes.
until it comes out over there.
Right, and do you know what they call a stream that's piped underground? No, they've got a new, it's been rebranded, and it's nice. It's called a ghost river. And why is it called a ghost river? Because it's there, but you can't see it. You can often hear it, and actually, if you do go down, if you're interested, because it does go down Flower Avenue, and then we have a map to show some of the other streets that it goes into. But if you listen at some of these curb inlets along the way, you can actually hear the stream flowing constantly. And that is a stream that pre-World War II, probably sometime between World War I and World War II, was a stream, and actually probably looked a lot like this did, all the way down to where it becomes a stream again, which is in Upper Long Branch Park. So that's funny, we call it Upper Long Branch Park, but where's Upper Long Branch? Right up here, yes. As Ian said, the headwaters of Long Branch are actually only about 300 feet upstream of the Beltway, and they mostly occupied by Blair High School and that open space next to there, which is, if you're like to go swimming or play pickleball, it's the YMCA. So the YMCA and YMCA and the high school are essentially the headwaters of Long Branch. And like we said, it comes out, it's piped through here, that's all the red, that's the ghost stream, which has a little ghost river. And then this is, that could be Franklin or Flower, one of the two.
I think it's
I don't know
Flower.
where this, that's, yeah. This is Long Branch Wayne, I'm pretty sure. And then, but this is Upper Long Branch. That's what we used to call the fire hut. If you had kids, the fire engine, fire truck.
Still call it fire engine.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So we really can't do anything about the Ghost River here, right? That's pretty much nothing we could, that would be hundreds and hundreds of houses and families. That's just a done deal. But it's still got value to create areas here, and why is there value? Why are these areas valuable? Why does Friends of Sligo Creek care about these areas, even if they go into a pipe stream?
Water quality.
Water quality is a big thing. What else?
Wildlife habitat.
Wildlife. What kind of wildlife do you think lives up here?
Lots. There's a fox that had kits this year.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
I've seen a bunch of birds, including some wood ducks, and they
Yep.
come out on warm evenings right now. The tree frogs are singing.
Nice. And I think somebody that you guys may have been doing told me at Spring Peepers earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
our
about the residents.
So our site, and then there are also some native plants. Now, we planted a heck of a lot of native plants here, but there were some native plants, but a lot of them were under attack by our old friends, the invasives. Forest would go. And so can you talk just a little bit how we determine how wide we can go and who we work with?
Yes.
To determine
So
that?
we work closely with our urban forester to document the trees in the area, and then work with them for our project limits and how far we can go, in the limits of the project without damaging good trees, mature trees. So we really take special care in inventorying 6 inches and greater, every tree 6 inches or greater. And as we go through the design iterations, we work with our urban forester and look at each tree individually, basically, to see, how far do I need to come away from this tree if I'm going to create a pool, or how close can I get to this smaller tree, and how will its future look. So,
And what are some of the tools we use to create that barrier during construction?
Yeah. So we use a couple different things. Mulch roads to protect tree roots. So although our project,
it's our construction that we're building. We're using. You can't build this. We can't build this next weekend.
Big
we do
equipment.
need bigger equipment. Some of these rocks in here, they do have to be 2,000-3,000 pound rocks in order to withstand some of the big storms that we are going to get here.
Yeah.
So it does have to be construction equipment.
Right. Big excavation, rock moving equipment to place these surgically through the channel. So although our channel looks, the project area is a little bit bigger. And for this one, our access came in over on the side there, where we used a thick mulch mat to bring equipment over top of it and protect tree roots. We use tree protection fencing, tree planking, because these pieces of equipment swing with the rocks and they have these swing radiuses. And
Don't want to inadvertently hit a tree that you just spend a lot of effort going.
We have really good contractors that can flip coins off the side of the road at the end of the day. But they still sometimes just get focused on one thing. So sometimes the mechanical damage happens, so we minimize that and mitigate it with tree plank up along the trees. So a bunch of steps to protect the system.
So here,
This one, that's the as-built.
okay. So a couple different parts when you go into design these things. So what we see a lot is the horizontal. What's the side to side? What's the grading look like? And that sort of thing. But when we're looking at this from a hydrologic perspective and from an engineering and physics perspective, really the profile is almost as important. And like I said, in stream channels, now we can't replicate what was here before we were here, right? That's not realistic. But as I mentioned, what typically in Maryland, in this part of Maryland, if we're in the Piedmont, I think we're above it, yeah, we're in Piedmont, is generally braided channels through flat areas that are typically wet areas, marshy, wetland areas, and then independent fall areas, either through riffles or cascades. So one of the things that we did here, and just to give you an idea, so that, like I said, everything was based on that pipe over there. So one thing we did is we did daylight a little bit. We were able to take out about 16 feet of pipe that was here before. And then we put a large cascade above here. And that cascade is about, let me just see here, is about 6 feet high. So that means that we had to lift this whole channel about 6 feet just to get to the lowest pool. And you can see that lowest pool there, the top of the cattails are close to our feet. So there's another 4 feet of air below that. And so then we had to step up and step up. So we created these riparian enhancement areas. And this is where livestock, this has got a ton of biology in it, right? So you get the physics of the rock, holding it together, cascading, getting some aeration, holding the back, releasing the water power, and then you have the riparian areas which kind of flood slowly, get to a shallower depth, maybe some areas 6 inches, some areas 18 inches, but all that variety stores some water, and then that allows that water, that captured water, as you're saying, instead of going down, because the time it takes this water, once it enters the piped stream down to Upper Long Branch Park, which is all piped, which is what, about a half mile away. I would say, how long does you think that take? Well, we'll do that. How long do you guys think that takes for water to get here to Upper Long Branch from this pipe? Do you think it's, I'll do it again. Do you think it's 30 seconds, 3 minutes, 30 minutes, or 3 hours? About 3 minutes. That's probably faster than you can drive from here to there. That's how fast this water is going through your ghost room, right? Now, how long do you think it takes water to get from the, how long do you think now it takes water to get from the Beltway to here? And this is kind of a trick question, but how long do you think when we get the rain yesterday, right? You guys had rain here yesterday. It's been dry for a few days. How long do you think it took to get from that first drop of water, get from there down to here?
3 minutes?
30 minutes.
No, probably at least 3 hours. Oh, right. Yeah, because it had to fill up. Remember, we didn't have rain, so these were lower. So this has a benefit, a stormwater management benefit that goes in. And the water that you see here today, right, that water's never going down through the pipe. Where's it going to go? Down in the ground. And then how long do you think it takes in the ground to get from here to Upper Long Branch? 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks, or 3 months?
3 months.
Probably about 3 months, because that's going to move approximately 1 foot per day is the order of magnitude that groundwater moves. So you can see why this infiltration is so beneficial to the base flow of streams. We see streams, a lot of times we get excited, we see a stream after, I know I get excited, see a stream after, while it's raining, a big storm, you see that flood, you see that engineering, you see that. But, and then we go home, what do the fish do? They still have to live there. So 3 weeks after it rains, they still need water coming in order for it to be a survivable creek. And that water comes from groundwater recharge from the headwater. So this wetland over there on the other side, and this area, this water coming through is feeding in constantly, slowly but constantly. And even though when it dries up and we don't see it here, that water still may be flowing 1 block down, and then when it comes to get a new rain cycle, so what you're doing is you're bridging that gap between rain cycles. Now, will you have your pipe stream? Can you bridge that gap? No. In Sligo, where you get like something 30-40% impervious area, can you bridge that? No. Because there's no storage here. There's so much storage. If you think about it, soil is 40. I can't do that one now. But it's 40% air, right? Under a road, it might be 20% air. Still 20% air, right? That's called the void ratio. That stores when you have groundwater and you soak that in. So you could imagine, right? We get all excited when we get an inch of rain. But at 40%, a foot of soil can hold an inch of rain. So we took away that ability when we built this road here. And this did not have that ability because it was channelized into this deep channel that was only 12 inches wide. But now that this is about 60 or 80 feet wide, and we have the depth of the soil in here is at least 12 to 18 inches, that's a lot of storage, right? So that's why we thought this was such a great place to work, and why it was so important for Long Branch, even if it does go into a pipe stream. And I will be honest. I may be a little bit biased, but I do really think down at that fish passage that the base flow that we saw there the other day when it hadn't rained was significantly more than it was 3, 4, 5 years ago before this was built. And that does have a good benefit. So that carries on. And even if the other thing somebody mentioned here, you get wildlife here, you get ecology here, you get capture of some of the plastics and some of the brake fluid and some of the grindings that come off of the road, and of course the salt and everything, right? And that's not awesome for this wetland. It's not awesome, but it's better that it has a series of pools, and those series of pools can cleanse it and settle that out. And one thing we found in this, we used the analogy of Brewood. People know the Brewood tributary just south of, downstream of University Boulevard. Similar situation's got a giant pipe. I think that's about a 54 or 60 inch pipe that comes off of University Boulevard. We worked with DEP probably 10 years ago, built a series of pools. Actually went by there yesterday. Yes, the first pool is absolutely disgusting. Yes, the second pool is fairly disgusting. Yes, the third pool is not where you want your kids to play. But by the fifth pool and the sixth pool, it's not too shabby, actually. There's water walkers, there's tadpoles when you walk up to it, a lot of things scurrying around. And that's what you get here, so that even though right up by the pipe, it's still dirty water, down here in this last area, the last few pools, it is not so shabby. And the water entering here is not too bad. And it is, why don't we talk about the size of the drainage area that's going in here?
Yeah, well, 20 to about 25 acres.
Right, and 5 of that is the Beltway, right? The cleanest Beltway you've ever seen, right? So we're capturing 5 acres of Beltway. We're capturing a lot of Blair High School.
The ball field.
The ball fields, yeah. So, but still, 25 acres. And just to go back to the map where that is, that's 25 acres to this point, right? By the time you get down here, we're working into 150 acres that's draining to it. And one of the things in this map, it is terrible to say, but from here down to Upper Long Branch, it's approximately 40% impervious area, right? And so that makes that a real challenge. But I will say, once you get past there, you do get more parkland, and you do get the wider areas of the Long Branch local, Long Branch Wayne, Long Branch local, Long Branch Arliss, and then that's we get down to Piney Branch Road and that fish passage. So Long Branch is not dead. It may have been beaten down pretty hard, but it's not dead. Yeah.
2 questions. When you put in natives, do you consider the specific plant's capability to remove certain toxins? I know there's a lot of study being done about which plants are best at drawing down certain pollutants.
And I've worked in this back in school. Those types of kind of rhizoremediation projects that are very, very specified, those tend to be on brownfields and wastewater treatment plants. Here, there is a balancing act between does it take up pollutants and is it natural or native to have it here? And a lot of times we would err towards is it native to have it here, because most of our plants are actually grown Pope Farm. You guys ever been to Pope Farm?
Yep.
Yeah. So they've been doing this so long that essentially their native seed stock is essentially Montgomery County native seed stock. And so we would pick from there. But here, another thing that you'll find if you ever look at when people talk about stormwater versus wastewater is very much the same thing. They study it and for a few months, and really there's no variation in its chemical and biological makeup. It becomes the same because it's a mixture of everything that comes out of the houses. Here, you get the mixture of what comes off of the roadway, and that tends to be varied. It tends to be less acute than you get out of a household. Obviously, sewer systems are very acute, and it tends to be more of this general chronic area. So most of the plants that they do grow at Pope Farm are pretty good, but we don't do the directed remediation that they would do at a brownfield or at a wastewater treatment plant. And those, just so you know, those plants are typically harvested because they are looking to take the pollutant out, cut them off, take them away. Here, we're just trying to get back into a more native, natural cycle of what could be. Yeah. When our parents, and when this was a country club, the expectations of the community were very different. And we used to, as an organization, we used to mow directly up to the bank. And I even had, earlier in my career, I knew people who were late in their career, and they were saying that's what they were told. And I will tell you, we have been yelled at and told we are really bad people for stopping to mow in the Long Branch area, right down there. I won't tell you exactly what crossing it is before we get to that street, but a lot of people were very angry at us. They said it looks ugly, it looks, it's nasty, you're allowing vagrants, you're allowing all kinds of different things to happen. You're not managing it the way good old parks used to manage it. It's a slow process, but there is a lot of recognition. Every 3 years, our Pope Farm horticulturist team, when they go to look at planting areas, they do look at cyclical around the county, and they look at riparian plantings. Every time we do a project, we try and our park planning and stewardship works with Pope Farm and identify as many of these native trees as we can. Riparian zones are extremely important, but I will tell you, going back to this map, or that map here, part of the difficulty here between here and Upper Long Branch Creek is those riparian areas have house addresses in them. And so that's not going to happen, but everything down outside of there, and please let us know, let your park manager know, let us know, contact us, put in that request and say, this is that area. A lot of you guys have our numbers. When you're thinking about stuff, we're probably thinking about it too. And sometimes when we get certain parts of the community doesn't necessarily want this, certain parts of the community does want this, if Friends of Sligo Creek wants that carries a lot more weight whether Andy Frank wants it or Ian Rodway wants it. So you guys carry more weight than you need. We're always available to hear suggestions of other areas that we can do. Please, you guys also know how limited it is. This is, again, why it's so important. We're so thankful for your work on these non-native invasives. There would just be no way that the county would staff us to be able to do that, right? But they do staff us, and we try and do these capital projects where we try and get these benefits through.